right after that.
Okay.
So here we go.
All right. While we wait for Chief to get that going, hello everybody. Welcome to this month's RRC virtual class. As you can see, Spencer's not here. He sent me to try and moderate and make this happen. He's totally going to be judging me. Do give me some grace as I try to get all of this together. But thank you all for joining. Tonight, we are really thrilled to have Chief McBride with us. Chief is the Assistant Chief of EMS for Virginia Beach. So without further ado, I will hand it over to her. So thank you, Chief. Over to you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my content now and we'll get started. I think I am. Oh boy. Are you able to see my screen?
So yes, Chief, we can see it.
Okay, then here we go.
What did I do?
The only thing though, Chief, is if you could make it bigger because I'm in the little corner.
Right now. How about that?
Yes.
Okay.
It looks absolutely perfect.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm sorry for the little bump in the getting started, but I'm so happy to be here. And I am the Assistant Chief with the Department of EMS here in Virginia Beach. And I'm also a longtime volunteer with the Virginia Beach Volunteer Rescue Squad and past chief of that squad, which is the largest one in our system. And as assistant chief, I have responsibilities for our whole system and a little bit about us. We are the largest volunteer-based EMS system in the country. We are made up of 10 independent volunteer rescue squads, plus our specialty teams, which include the Marine Rescue Team. We've got a SWAT medic team, bike team, and search and rescue, that sort of thing. We are supported by the City Department of EMS, which provides the oversight and the street supervision, allows us to answer 911 calls. We also are supplemented by 42 paid paramedics who are part of the department, and there are a few more coming on next month. The department also gives the volunteers free education as long as they agree to volunteer for a year, and the training. The other leg of this wonderful three-legged stool is the Virginia Beach Rescue Squad Foundation. And the foundation has traditionally supported the system. It started as a group to support Rescue 14, the Virginia Beach Volunteer Rescue Squad. And I know that's confusing, but that's the name of the squad. That's the Oceanfront Squad. And the foundation quickly realized that one squad couldn't support, of course, the whole community, and that they needed to turn their sights on supporting the whole system, and that's what they've been doing. And they have been responsible for a lot of the recruitment activity and messages. And I don't know if you're familiar with Bobby Hill, but he's been all over the state for a number of years doing the work of the foundation. The city has a population of 460,000 citizens, and then during our shoulder seasons, and especially the summer season, we have 15 million people who come visit us, and we are responsible for all of those happy accidents that happen while they're here. So in 2019, we responded to almost 50,000 calls for service. That's kind of how busy we are. The volunteers are staffing about 14 ambulances during the busy shifts. And it takes about 50 volunteers to staff one ambulance 24/7. And we recruited 493 volunteers in 2019. So as we headed into 2020, we had 420 active attendants in charge. we typically have about 100 more than that, but people are on leave and that sort of thing. So we had about 420 active AICs. We had 73 interns who were trying to get released as AICs, and then 187 students in the academy that the department provides. And of course, then we had COVID. What did that do? Well, in March 15th, we had the first COVID positive patient that we officially encountered. We had inklings that, of course, stuff was going on. We were hearing about that pandemic, right? So what happened is we lost a lot of our military volunteers, and this is a military town, so that was a big hit to us as far as volunteer work was concerned. We also lost the volunteers who had issues, who were compromised in some way, or had family members who had some kind of issue, and they didn't want to expose their family to any kind of COVID. And then the people who were just a little afraid, unsure, didn't want to know or didn't want to be exposed to anything, and this was really scary at the time. So it was, of course, more critical than ever to retain the volunteers that we could. So in April, we were down to about 360 active AICs. The emergency calls, of course, didn't stop, and now many of them were high risk, full PPE. The city also curtailed the fire response. So in Virginia Beach, fire is automatically sent to all the priority 1 calls. So that stopped, meaning that the volunteer EMS was many times the only ones going to the calls, and then we're determining whether if they had to be AIC. They had to be ALS, if we had to bring in a paramedic, or of course that wasn't needed if there was a paramedic that was on the truck. And during that time, we were getting emails and texts with different information and safety and response protocols being changed. So everybody had to keep up on that. It was very stressful. But our volunteer corps was amazing. People really stepped up, and it was really heartening to see how, even with this very scary pandemic, people were willing to go out there and help folks who are in trouble. And these are all volunteers. So between March and August, we had more than 20,000 calls for service. And that was during that summertime when COVID was just raging. We had on average 12 ambulances staffed with 378 AICs running duties. We had to squeeze in fit tests for the masks and all the special equipment that was needed. We had to keep up with the changing protocols. No restaurants were open, and bathroom breaks were few and far between. And this was a very, very familiar phrase. How soon can you clear? So it was really hard on our volunteers, but we couldn't afford to lose anyone. We had already lost a lot just due to the scary situation. And of course, there were smiles under the masks, but we didn't want our wonderful corps to burn out. So what could we do? We could recognize them as the warriors that they are. So the city received CARES money, and they were very smart, because what they did was they took that money and they put it into the salaries of the first responders that were paid. And then they took the same amount and they gave it out of the budget, and they gave it to the Department of EMS for the volunteers, because that CARES money couldn't, streamline, go straight to the volunteers. There were, of course, some restrictions on it, and that was that they had to be directly encountering COVID patients. So our Deputy Chief Hunley pulled the names of all the AIC volunteers who ran between March and August, and if they ran their full number of duties, they were eligible for $100 worth of gifts, and if they ran partial duties, they were still eligible for gifts because they had been willing to expose themselves. We have something called a sustainability team, and we had some of those members form a committee to create this program. And we chose a variety of significant and meaningful gifts. And we wanted those gifts to enhance our volunteers' duties. You know, we didn't want them to just be t-shirts or pins or, you know, something else that was nice to have, but wasn't anything that was useful and warrior-like. So we wanted them to feel more efficient, more comfortable, and more valued. So we got a logo design created, and it was very simple. It was done by a printer that was helping us get access to some of the rewards. And these were some of the things that that committee chose, and they're really cool. We had the microstream flashlights, we had the radio holsters, we had compression socks, we had challenge coin displays, a lot of lunch coolers and fleece blankets. We had Littman stethoscopes and Leatherman Raptors. And it was important to us that the volunteers could choose their own rewards. We also added a lot of Wawa gift cards because Wawa was still open, and they could get snacks, food, coffee, and fuel if they wanted to do that. We created a challenge coin. And what was really cool about this challenge coin is that it was indented like a worry stone. And that had never been done by this challenge coin company. And we were adamant about it being different like that to help make it special. So we sent out surveys and made sure that there was a respond by date. But in the survey, each volunteer could choose the rewards that they wanted up to the dollar amount that they were eligible for. And we kept lots of lists, lots of spreadsheets. And there's a little sample of what they looked like. And then we distributed the rewards, and we did it on a Friday and a Saturday, trying to kind of straddle that weekday, weekend, and the times were during the afternoon on the weekday, morning, afternoon on the Saturday, just so that we could be available for volunteers and their schedules. And as you can see, this was after the first day, and we had all of that out. You can imagine what it looked like in the morning. And I'll talk a little bit about this setup because this was one of the things that we learned how to do it next time. But it was a really fun time. Everybody was excited and happy. We were delivering challenge coins with a handshake, giving the volunteers their gifts, and it was just like Christmas. So in the end, it was tremendously successful, and our volunteers were really thrilled, and they felt appreciated. And how do we know that? We got wonderful messages back from them, and these are their words. Just wanted to say thank you for all the time and energy you and your team invested into the COVID warriors. The rewards were impressive, diverse, and great quality. It was awesome how we were able to select our own rewards that added a personalized touch, which helped communicate the message that the volunteers are really valued and appreciated. And here's another one. Thank you for making the time to connect and carry the message of gratitude and value on an individual level. One more. There's a saying that people go where they feel welcomed, but stay where they feel valued. Thank you for your dedication in communicating this to us. So, lessons learned, yes. these are some of the positives. So we deliberately called our volunteers warriors. We deliberately called the gifts rewards, and we deliberately allowed them to choose which rewards they wanted. So we were also very organized in the beginning. We used official channels to send the volunteers the information about the program. We used the official scheduling program to ascertain that they had done their full duties or some duties so that they fit into the $100 level or the $50 level. And we reached out to them in a number of ways because we wanted to make sure that people knew this was happening, including sending lists of the members to the individual squad commanders so that they in turn could reach out to their own members. We showed appreciation with every inquiry, good or bad, and we were supported by the foundation. So again, that it's a wonderful organization, and because the Department of EMS could not use this money to buy things, it's not allowed because of the city rules. They could not do it. So they basically donated the money to the foundation. And then our team got together with the foundation to say, here's what we want you to buy with that money. And of course, we had our spreadsheet and everything, and it went beautifully. And some of the negative things that we learned if we were to do this again. Not all of the eligible volunteers learned about it, and it was awful to get an email from somebody a couple months later saying, hey, I'm on the list. Can I order my gifts, my rewards? And, to have to tell them, I'm sorry that, we're already in the process and I had sent this out 3 months ago. So that was not pleasant. Here's the other thing. This did not go to any support or administrative volunteers because it had to be used for volunteers who are in direct contact with the COVID patients. We also had distribution issues. So when we sent, or when the packages from companies were being sent, it went to headquarters, the Department of EMS. And from there, it was stored in a supply room, locked, secured. And because it's such a very busy building with classes and meetings and everything going on, we had the committee had no time to really organize things until the distribution day. So that's part of why it was a little bit chaotic. And there were some mistakes made. So we would do that differently next time. And I would urge you to do that differently. We also had multiple lists, and that in trying to be efficient and convenient for people to have multiple people checking volunteers off as they came in, it really turned into a huge headache because we were trying to then combine the lists and it was a big mess. So having just one master list would have been the way to go. We also got wrong tumblers delivered with a different logo on it from one of the companies. Of course, that wasn't our fault, but we didn't have a plan for it. Were able to reach all the folks who had chosen that for their reward, and were able to get the right ones to them later. And then we should have ordered extras of everything, just because somebody miscounted or whatever it was. The last thing you want is for somebody not to get an appreciation gift. So the big question, did we retain volunteers who might have left because of this program? Don't really know, but these are statistics that I can show you. And that is that if we look at 2019 compared to COVID in 2020 and our months March through August, you can see this is the tally of people leaving the system. And I think for 4 of the 6 months, we had fewer people leave, even with a terrible virus raging, a very challenging environment. having to wear all of that PPE, having to keep up with all kinds of crazy changing protocols, we had a significant number of people not leave. So it's our belief that reaching out to help our volunteers feel appreciated and valued is absolutely critical. And the Department of EMS here in Virginia Beach is really proud we were able to achieve this through our COVID-19 Frontline Warriors program. So are there any questions about that?
So, Chief, there's one question in the chat and I'll read that out. But if anybody has any questions, thank you so much, Chief, for that presentation. I learned a lot, so thank you. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand virtually, unmute yourself and talk, or you can chat in and I'll read it out to Chief. Chief, so the first question is, what did you mean by a worry stone?
Oh, gosh. A worry stone is typically something that you keep in your pocket, and it's a polished stone of some kind, and it's got a divot in it. I'm rubbing my hand like this because that's what you do. Here's one right here. It doesn't really have a divot, but it's a little stone that you rub if you're worried or stressed out, or, you know, if you just feel like calming yourself, and it's called a worry stone. And so actually the challenge coins had that divot in them, so that unlike most challenge coins that are just flat like a regular coin, if this was kept in a pocket, you could use it as a worry stone and rub your thumb in that indentation, and it would help calm you. And, you know, with all of the craziness going on during COVID, and the fact that we were out screaming around, you know, answering calls every time you turned around, it was scary. It was stressful. And anything that we could do to help alleviate that stress, or to help remind our volunteers that we had them, we've got you back. You know, we're here for you, we support you, we love you, we appreciate what you're doing. Then if they needed that reminder, that's a small price to pay to get them a challenge coin like that.
Absolutely. That sounds really, really neat. Chief, can I ask a huge favor? So you're still sharing your screen, and I think, yeah, so if you would do that. And then Mr. Tesh has his hands raised. So Mr. Tesh, do you want to take the floor and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chief McBride. That was a great presentation. The worry stone, as far as I know, I think that it has some roots in Ireland, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that if people want to look something up on that, they might, you know, Google Irish folklore or something to that effect. Might be able to find some more information. That's just a comment I had. Thanks again for your presentation, though.
Of course, my pleasure.
And then, Chief, another question. That sounds really cool, but did manufacturers have a hard time with the design?
No, and you know what? Let me come right over here because I have one.
That's
actually, they got really excited. So this is the coin, and let me see if I can get it. You can see how it's got that divot in it. So this is the COVID virus, and then on the other side is the logo and the mask. And this part is the part that is indented, and you can just rub it. So the mask itself is the smooth part, and it's indented like that. Can you kind of see that?
Yep.
Yeah. That, and they had never done one like that, and the coin company itself was excited about it because they thought, wow, that's really cool. We've never seen that before. And of course we were excited because it was cool. And, you know, if we could give people something that was a little bit different but had a great meaning behind it, then we were all about it.
That's great. So another one that says, that's coming from Matt, it says, wonderful, Chief. Have you found a way to transition your incredible retention efforts into post-COVID recruitment efforts?
That's a great question. So here's what we're doing. Yes. Because we had, unfortunately, a number of volunteers who did not take advantage of this, we had some money left over and we bought Wawa gift cards with it. And so what's happening now is that if we have a volunteer who has stepped up to do an extra duty, especially on what we call a red day when we need people, or if a crew is split up and they didn't, of course, they want to run together, but they agree to be split up so that there could perhaps be 2 paramedic trucks instead of just one. Or if they are moved to a different location than their home station, then the street supervisors send me an email and I will reach out to those volunteers and give them a $50 Wawa gift card. And that is all that was all possible because of that initial CARES money. One thing I will say is a lesson learned is that we purchased the gift cards so that we could distribute them or have the street supervisors distribute them. Well, because the department is a city department, they are not allowed to give anybody a gift. So our good thought became an issue. But what we do now is we just scratch off the code and I send them an email with the link to the app, the Wawa app, and they get the card number and they get the PIN code and they download the app, put the numbers in, and they can use the gift card straight from their phone. And that has worked beautifully.
That's great. Please keep the questions coming. So Debbie wants you to know, what a great retention program. Love the COVID Warriors identity you used. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Matt also says, I'm absolutely certain your momentum will snowball to future recruitment success. Excellent work, Chief, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we've got another hand here, and I'd like to, is this my Chief? Chief Caputo, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, Chief, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yes, great presentation, great program, great initiative. My question is, are you doing anything are you getting any funds from the second round of federal money that's coming through? Is the city allocating any to the EMS department that you know of?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that. So because we have all of these gift cards that are left, and I have a feeling that they will last for about 2 more months. And because it was a monumental effort really to put this together, if we were to do it again, I would streamline it a little bit. But what was so important to the volunteers was choosing the gifts and making them meaningful. So if we maybe had fewer of those, but still meaningful gifts that were things that they could use while they were on duty, or to make them feel more proficient, or to make them feel more comfortable, then that's absolutely what we would do again. We've learned a little bit about, especially the distribution part. We've learned how to do that a little bit better, so it's not so crazy. But that was actually part of the fun. I will, admit it was pulling my hair out, but everybody was so happy, and I'd love to have that feeling and have the volunteers have that feeling again too.
Chief Caputo, is that good for you? Do you have any further questions, Chief?
No, I don't. It's just interesting because I noticed a lot of police departments are getting a lot of new vehicles. And I know that a lot of small volunteer rescue squads and small volunteer fire departments that were not able to do any fundraising during 2020 for the most part. I think we're kind of missing the boat and we're being left out. That's what I was just wondering if anything was going on at the beach with pass through some of the federal funds that are coming.
Well, I had somebody call me from your group who was asking about the CARES money and how did we do that? And I think that, and he was frustrated because they weren't being supported by the city in a way that he felt that they would think about, that the city would think about kind of giving the money in a way that was still following the program. So Virginia Beach was very smart in the way they did that. And, we've got, people love our first responders, and, it's such a unique system here because we aren't paid and we are so large that people don't know that we're volunteers. They don't suspect it. And we're trying really hard to get the word out because we do need the community support, fundraising and recruiting and everything else. But I wonder if there was a concerted effort to talk to the city councils or the town elders or whatever to say, look, this is how you can do it. You can take that money and put it toward salaries or something else, and then turn around and help the volunteers in another way, and if they're just not thinking that way, I don't know, or they just have other needs, but that may be something with pressure from the volunteer force.
Thank you, Chief. So we have Barbara with her hand raised up. So Barbara, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Thank you, Abina. It's not really a question, but a comment, Chief. When CARES 2 was announced in our community, I'm in Loudoun County, we, as a department with the Ashburn Volunteer Fire and Rescue, submitted a request. And part of the money that we asked for was not allowed because it was being done by the county fire and rescue system. But we did get a couple of $1,000s that allowed us to retrofit equipment on the ambulances for easier decontamination. So there was a component of it that we were able to use. But it was truly an adventure in grant writing to figure out who was offering and what they were going to let us claim. We haven't gotten the check yet, but we've been told that it was approved.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky wicket, that's for sure.
Thanks for sharing that, Barb. Anybody else? Any questions for Chief? Remember, Spencer's going to be judging me that I didn't get enough questions, so please keep your questions coming. But if you don't have any specific questions for Chief McBride at the moment, I'd like us to talk about a few either challenges or successes that we are all experiencing as a group. So in your little big area, any recruitment and retention challenges or successes that you can share with the group, that would be great. Barb?
Yes, I have another question. We have a live-in program, and at the moment it's underutilized. We've never really been able to get it to full capacity, but I'm wondering if there is anyone else that's on this call or is aware of anyone else that has a live-in program that has any kind of brochure that they would mail out or something that they could send electronically that would promote the live-in programs. There are several fire academies in our locality, and I'm not sure that we're touching them all or letting them know that we have this great opportunity. We have a brand new station, well, 4 or 5 years old now, but a great station and a lovely area that our live-ins habitate. So I'm just wondering if there's anybody else that has any kind of promotional program for their live-in, and could they touch base with me? I'll put my email in the chat box.
Great. So does anybody have anything that they can share with Barb while we're on here? And she's also going to put her email in the chat box, she said, but if anybody wants to chime in, that'd be great. Matt, do you have anything at all? Any recommendations?
What I've seen a lot of right now is as schools begin to reopen, schools have paid, especially in cadet programs, have paid a big kind of a heavy price because when they were shut down, a lot of cadet programs had to stop. They weren't able to facilitate them. And now that things are ramping back up, it's important to capture that group as quick as possible so that they can, well, first of all, get back into the organizations, but so that momentum actually leads them to the next group of volunteers. So I think there's a big opportunity there. I think trade schools and colleges, they were on pauses now, and I think that the pauses are starting to open up. People are really taking consideration of what they want to do. In Oregon, as we had wildland fires, that took a lot of, that shocked the West Coast. And as many of us are familiar, for example, after 9/11, many people wanted to do something. They wanted to act. Well, COVID is going to have a similar effect. People have made it through. They are thriving. They are beginning to stop wearing their masks. They're beginning to socialize. The schools are opening. They're beginning to make changes and do stuff and come out of the woodwork. And this is a great opportunity for us as fire service professionals to position ourselves to receive those people. And so when I think of all the challenges we're facing and what we can do to be proactive on it, that's kind of where my head was going.
Thank you. Chief McBride, so I have a question for you. Off the top of your head, do you remember how many volunteers that you rewarded in total?
Yes, it was about 350.
Okay. And then also, how many options of the rewards? Because I really love the idea that you gave them the option to choose what they wanted. I think that's such a brilliant idea. But how many of these options did you have in terms of the rewards?
Gosh, probably for each group, we had the $100 eligibility and the $50 eligibility. And I think they had about 8 different options. And we were very careful about choosing things that had a cost that could together be tallied up to $100 or $50. So we had a big challenge coin display and we had a small one. We had, for example, we had a lot of the Arctic products. We had the big half-gallon and we had the thermos. We had the 20 can and we had the lunch box. So we had a duffel bag, we had a backpack, we had fleece blankets, which were extremely popular. We ran out of them. I had to order more. But we also had those gift cards that were in different denominations so that they could max out as much as they could, depending upon what they were choosing. So, you know, giving them control like that was really popular. That was, people were very excited to get those tools. And because, here's the other thing, we put the logo on the duffel bag, the backpack, the Arctic stuff as much as we could, the blanket. And it was so popular. You see people walking around, they're very proud that we are putting together a sweatshirt, a hoodie that will have that logo without the year on it now, so that volunteers can purchase it at cost. So it was just a really great program. It really did exactly what we wanted it to do for them, and that was to help them feel appreciated and valued. And I think they really did.
That's great. Yeah. My county actually rewards volunteers who meet 8 points. So we go by a point system. And so looking at all those gift ideas, I thought that would be really great. So I think it's once we share the recording, it would be great to be able to see all of that so that we can take ideas from that if people need retention gifts. So yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Any other questions? Or any success stories, retention, anything? One more question for you, Chief, while we wait for the questions to roll in. So you set up a committee that came up with all these programs, like the rewards and all of that. How many people were on the committee, and how did you select the people to be on that committee?
Right. There were 4.
Okay.
Deliberately small. We had, so as you can imagine, we have 10 different rescue squads. I wanted to be sure that we had 4 different squads represented, and they were the ones that were not necessarily the biggest, but the most involved. So, and they were the folks who were the talkers. So they could help talk it up, and also popular volunteers, so that they know a lot of the other volunteers and what did people want, what were they thinking about, what were they interested in. And we have a lot of volunteers who are on the educational path, whether they're they want to be an ER tech, they want to be a PA, they want to be a doctor, whatever that is. And so there were a lot of those, even going into paramedic school. So-and-so needs a great Littman stethoscope. This would be perfect. Or so-and-so needs, the flashlight. And I don't know of, wasn't one gift that wasn't selected. Even the socks, even the compression socks, which we got from Walmart, those were popular. And I thought, you just never know. But again, it was something that was thoughtful, that could help somebody on a long duty. So I thought they did a really great job.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's interesting to hear the criteria, and also the fact that there were just 4 people, because I was really struggling with it. I was thinking, was it a large group? How did all of this happen? But I think the key there is what you did, limiting it to 4 people there. Yeah, that just made it.
We had to move fast. We didn't want to sit on it. And we had to get all of that, the ordering coordinated. And so that was quite a feat, because we had things that had to be embroidered. We had, so different people ordering. So, and it had to go through the foundation, and it just was really smooth. It could have been a complete blow up, but it wasn't at all. It really went smoothly.
That's great. It doesn't look like we've got any other questions or hands raised. Any other contributions? Anything that anybody wants to chime in? All right then. So just one quick informational update on my side. So the IFC did receive a grant about a year ago, and it's a diversity and inclusion grant. Really, it helps to recruit and retain women and minorities in the fire service. One of the deliverables is to give scholarships to fire camps. So if you know of anybody who does a fire camp or would like to create a fire camp, if you would reach out to us, that'd be great. And e-blast will be going out. And so once that goes out, we will share it with the group, so that if you have any recommendations, the scholarship is up to $5,000. So, it will go towards anything that you are putting up when it comes to the fire camp. And so Matt's here. I see Mr. Tesh's camera on. It looks like it's getting exciting here. Matt, can I answer any question for you, or do you have any suggestions for us?
Yeah, I have a question to Bina. So with these scholarships, are they for individuals to attend camps that are already pre-selected in the area, or are they for people running the camps that can help facilitate them and use them as scholarships to bring people to them? Can you help me understand that piece? Because we have the Fire Up Boot Camp at home here, which specifically meets diversity and inclusion for these camps. That's the literally it's and that's our audience, and we, so far it's all been bootstrapped, and so we're always looking for sponsors, and we're always trying to make the camp free, which we've been able to do. But anytime something's free, the cost comes from someplace else. Yeah. And so that's where I'm trying to get an understanding, because we would love to ask for those resources if it was to support the camp, but if it's to support the individuals, wonderful. I'd like to get those resources in their hands. So some clarity would be really helpful on that, Abina.
All right. So Matt, I'll give you an example and then maybe that will help. But, so we're doing either or, right? So if you're trying to, let's say you are a department and you completely want to start a fire camp, right? So whatever goes into it, if it is, I know that there's a camp, we have this girls camp in Connecticut, and it's this Captain, I don't know if any of you know, but her name's Captain Carter. So she's been doing this fire camp over the years. It's a 1-week camp, and she's been doing it out of pocket. So for 1 week, she'll bring girls together and they will go through all the training. So every day they'll do all sorts of training. They will do burn buildings. They will do CPR. So she has them for the full day, right? And then at the end of the week, there's like a mini graduation where they get certificates and all of that. But she's been doing this all out of pocket. So somebody like that will qualify, right, from that 5,000, and it will just go towards the cost. So whatever is, is costing her to put that fire camp on, she could do that. And then the other side could be if people, let's say, Matt, you have a fire camp that goes on already, and people have to pay, let's say, $50 to be able to attend that camp. You in turn could apply for that scholarship and use that money towards the people, who have to pay to attend the camp. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And then my only follow-up question was, where would we get the information for that again? How would we reach out?
Matt, so there's an e-blast that's going to be coming out probably early next week. And once that e-blast comes out, we'll share it with the RRC group as well. So if you would we've got 20 scholarships in total. So if you would just spread the message, it will be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Mr. Tesh, did you have a question, or you're on mute? So you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no question. It was answered already, but I think Chesterfield Fire would be definitely interested in something like you're talking about, the fire camp grant. Yes, we do a fire camp anyway, but this would be something we could do to help keep those costs down and hopefully include more people.
That would be great. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we will be sending more information out soon.
Very good.
Yeah. So I would like to say thank you again, Chief McBride. We were very grateful that you made the time to share all these gems with us. We'll be able to share this information with the larger group for those who could not attend, but I am very grateful for the information that you shared.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. So to everybody, our next meeting will be July 15th. And the BWS research team, that Spencer, he likes to get fancy, will be presenting on positive deviance and how it helps with retention. It sounds very exciting. So I hope everybody will be able to make it then July 15th, same time. So otherwise, if we don't have any questions, any concerns, comments, this is huge. So I just got a message that says we vote for Abina taking Spencer's spot full time. Also, that's from my chief as well. So there's a bit of partiality there, but I'll take that, Chief Caputo. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time off your schedules to join us while Chief McBride shared all of the information. And please do reach out if you have any questions, any comments, and we'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you, and you have a lovely evening.
Thank
You
you.
too, Abina. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.